Riddy-bip-bip-a-doo.
What's on your shirt tonight? I've been trying to figure it out.
Oh, it's like the original Ninja Turtles arcade game.
Press. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Press start, and on the top of it, that's kind of cool.
All the turtles on it. Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
I don't know if you know this, Nick. I'm a big time Ninja Turtles guy.
I've gotten that vibe from you over the years. Just a couple times. Also, I was just thinking, I think over the past 4 weeks, you've been wearing well, you had the hoodie and then you had some other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. It's only probably the biggest part of my childhood, so.
Oh.
No big deal.
It's a big part of your adult life still, apparently, too.
Apparently. Having to let it go yet.
That's all good. Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Josh.
And this is the PUDs Podcast. So what's going on, buddy? It's been a little bit.
No, not that. Not too long. Not as long as when you went away on vacation.
Yeah. Just for the listeners, we actually took like a little over a week break because that Joshua Tree episode was a lot. Yeah. That was a lot of prep. I think I did like a couple hours of notes the night before, and then we were podcasting until pretty late with that. And it took quite a bit of editing to get that together. Not like there was a lot of ridiculous stuff, but I had a couple faux pas in there where I came and corrected some little facts and whatnot. And yeah, it just took a bit to get through.
Yeah,
so try to keep a little bit more concise tonight, but hopefully everybody found it useful and enjoyed it.
Couple technical difficulties in that night. Yeah, that was definitely a marathon for sure. But well rested. I'm ready to go. Coming off of a big T-ball win. Jeremiah's team just, even though they don't keep score, we won. We definitely won. So.
Yeah, the Phillies.
Yeah,
Josh was saying the Phillies won tonight. The Phillies are coming off a big win, and at first I was like, "What the heck is he talking about?" I didn't know if he converted from a Red Sox fan because, let's be honest, the Red Sox kind of stink again this year.
Suck. They suck.
Yeah.
You know who sucks?
Cool. Who sucks?
That guy that came.
Tell me.
Me and Nick went golfing a couple weeks ago, and it was me, Nick, and Tony, and we only had 3. So they paired us, or I guess added a single player to our group, and that guy stunk, dude. That guy stunk.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. I just thought it was funny because he, right off the bat, was talking about how, I just broke 100 and I've been playing since, I think he said last August. Yeah. So he's working through like 2/3 of a year.
No, he said he broke 90.
Oh, he said he broke 90?
He said he broke 90.
Oh, I thought he said he broke 100 because I call it full shenanigans on 90 because he did not break 120, I don't think, when we played. But I always think that's interesting when people are like braggy in golf because there's always someone better than you in golf. When you're most people are better, or a lot of people are better than you at golf, especially when you play at Segregated or somewhere like that. At Cushionit, I like to think that we're like middle of the pack, probably. And we can keep it moving.
I don't mind getting a random added to our group. Like, I never have an issue with that.
Most people are nice.
Yeah,
for sure.
I never have an issue with that, but we don't even tee off yet. And this guy's like, "Yeah, I broke 90 like last week or the week before," and so he's like kind of talking about that, and then immediately he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I don't hit my driver because I can't hit it well," and I'm like. Yeah, there's no way you broke 90 and you can't even hit a club in your bag. Like, it's crazy. That was ridiculous, dude. It was such such a big brag for nothing. Like, we didn't even need to know that. Just come and play. No. Just come and play. We're gonna be chill.
Like, we don't care. Like, it's fun to play with people who are a lot better than you. Sometimes I really think like you play with a single handicapper. I think you can learn a lot. And even, just playing with Tony, who's significantly better than us, like, you can learn a lot. But, yeah, it's kind of weird to approach that to people you don't know at all and be like, oh, yeah, I'm this good. And I knew as soon as he stepped up at Acushnet River Valley that he was either going to be really good or he was going to be really bad because he broke out, like, a 3-iron or a 4-iron to tee off. And we're talking, like, it's not a short hole. Like, it's a driver hole. Unless you're a pro and you hit, like, your 4-iron, like, 250.
Right.
Which he didn't. He actually stepped up and shanked 60. It straight right into a tree. And, I think it took him like 13 shots to get it on the green from there on out. At least from what I could see, I actually basically sliced one into the fairway.
Yeah.
So.
No, he had a DNF on the first hole because by like his 12th shot, he like hit it over the green. He was like chipping up and he hit it over the green and it went into the woods. And then I was like, just pick it up, dude. Just put a ball down. If you really want to putt, just put a ball down and putt it. Like,
I love how you called it a DNF.
It's a DNF.
Like that should be like he took that many strokes. Yeah. It wasn't even like a countable amount anymore. Like he was over 12 probably.
That poor guy.
Anyways, yeah, that was just kind of strange.
Yeah.
We did tell him we have a podcast. I realized that. So
yeah. I hope he's listening.
Yeah, he doesn't know if it's him. We could have golfed.
No, it's him.
With other people.
If you're listening to this and you think it's you, it's definitely you, my man.
Sorry,
it's okay.
It's kind of the
it's
truth.
All right.
Though.
Just you don't have to brag
it's all
to
good.
anybody.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to brag.
You don't have to
brag.
brag. You don't
exactly.
have to. You don't have to make up pretend scores.
Unless you happen to have like the worst round that you've ever played in your life, I don't know. I'm just a little doubting that you broke 90 recently. I'm just gonna say that. I'll keep it nice.
I like how you really worry that this guy's listening and is gonna like come and get you.
Imagine.
Never gonna see this guy again. I don't care.
I like all of a sudden your like phone goes dead.
Oh man, somebody sneaks up behind me with the black gloves on.
Yeah, I'm like, Josh, he's behind you. Oh God. Oh no.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was fun though to get out with you and Tony and get our feet wet, so to speak, with this year's golf season. That was fun. Yeah. And we both actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
It's better than I played this past weekend, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. You told me it was rough.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough. We played at Segregansett, me, Tony, and Nate, and it ended up being really windy and kind of wet, and the rough was tough, and it was just a tough day. That course is tough. I was happy to break 100. I had shot a 99, but it was like my front nine, I was feeling good. I shot a 46, and then, it went downhill in the back. Just doubles and triples, and couldn't get it back together. You know, when you have that feeling like you just can't, like, I'm out of it. I can't get it back together. Yeah. I wasn't chipping well. I was rushing my swing a little bit, not driving super well. But hey, there's plenty of the season left. I'm optimistic. I'll get back in there, hit the range a little bit.
That's how I felt.
Or maybe not.
The week before. Like, I felt like my back nine, like, I got frustrated.
You played pretty well, though.
Yeah, the front, I played great. And then the back, I played like garbage because I got so frustrated after hole 11 when I'm hitting an 8 iron like 180 yards for some reason.
Yeah, you did crink that one. I remember.
And I'm like, it looked beautiful,
and
it's over the back of the green, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny how your mentality in golf plays a role. But yeah, for whatever reason, I just was by like the 11th or 12th. I kind of was like, just survive this. I was in survival mode. I just want to like break 100. I'm like, please, 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 please.
It's going to be a good season, I can tell.
Yeah. What else have you been up to? What'd you get up to over Mother's Day weekend? Anything special?
No, we just kind of hung out. We went to a new restaurant over here, and I don't know, man. If you're not ready to open, just don't open, is the way I look at it.
Oh, man. I was going to say, is this going to be a good plug or a bad plug?
No, it was disappointing because, like, if your people don't know your menu, and your menu also has items that like you can't even make well, and everything takes forever. Like just wait, just hold off, perfect your menu, and then move on, and open and go. But like,
so just really slow service.
The service was bad. They didn't know. Like we were trying to, because Melissa's obviously has celiac disease, so we had to try to get something gluten free. So we asked this woman. She was like, "Oh, we were like, are the wings gluten free?" And she was like, "Yeah, but the sauces aren't." And I'm like,
"Huh?
Barbecue sauce,
which can be true though."
Yeah, but barbecue sauce is usually
teriyaki or
gluten free. Like buffalo sauce is usually gluten free.
Even I know this now myself because I've cooked for you guys so much in Fermel too.
Right.
So I'm like, I know like most, like you said, mostly barbecue sauces. And
so
soy sauce I always remember is sneaky because that has gluten in it usually.
So I had to ask her. I'm like, hey, can you just check with the chefs to make sure like that's correct? And then sure enough, she comes back. She's like, oh yeah, no, those are all fine. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I knew it. Yeah. But then we were getting like appetizers, and I just wanted to get like something simple. So I got cornbread, And the cornbread was terrible, dude. And I've never had corn.
How do you mess up cornbread?
Yeah, you took it right out of my mouth.
You can mess it up.
Dude, I've never had bad cornbread in my entire life. This was the worst cornbread I've ever had. It was like rubbery. They put it in a skillet. They cooked it in a skillet. It was rubbery. It was oily. It was disgusting to the point where like I had a bite and I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching that. And nobody ate it.
It probably was like made like a couple days before or something like that.
And it was like the size of like...
It's a bad look, man, especially for their new restaurant. I take it from how you're describing
dude,
it. So that's the bummer.
It was a tiny portion of cornbread, probably the size of like I don't even know, dude. Like maybe a small Frisbee or something like that. And it was like $7, dude. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this sucks. Yeah, so it was not great. And like I said, if you're not ready to open up, if your people don't know your menu, your people don't know your stuff, like, just don't open up yet. Get everything right. Have your staples and go from there. But
you don't want to end up on Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah, exactly.
Being one of those restaurants.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a restaurateur.
Cool.
All right, man. Want to get into the music moment?
Yeah, sure. All right. So, trying to keep with these sort of themed songs. And tonight I thought no better than to use the song San Jacinto by Peter Gabriel. So, San Jacinto is a track. It's actually the second track on the first side of his 1982 album. So it's kind of weird with Peter Gabriel. His first 4 albums are actually all like untitled on the covers and technically untitled. They all just sort of say Peter Gabriel on them.
Yeah.
And they're kind of referred to by different sort of common like names that people just call them. This one's actually called Peter Gabriel 4, or Security was sort of an alternative name for this actual album. I thought that was kind of weird and I forgot I'd kind of known about that, how he just has like each of them just say Peter Gabriel and it's like a weird graphic of him or something like that. Like there's one called Melts.
Yeah.
And the first like titled album he actually had was So, that would come out after this album. So yeah, the second track on this is actually called San Jacinto, and tonight we're going to be talking about Mount San Jacinto or San Jacinto Peak, so I thought that was pretty fitting. And I thought one of the more interesting things about this was the meaning of the song once I started to sort of drill into it a little bit. So San Jacinto, not really a single or anything. It's a song that I liked off this album quite a bit. My dad really liked it, so I'm pretty familiar with the song. A lot of people probably know Shock the Monkey that's on this album. I think most people know that. It's a pretty big radio hit. Josh looks puzzled.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
You'd know it if you heard it.
I think all I know is Your Eyes.
That's the next album. So yeah, Shock the Monkey was a big single off this one. Eye of the Touch was a big single, and Wallflower was also kind of, those are the top 3 singles off this. So San Jacinto, according to Peter Gabriel, is a song that reflects on the fear and pain experienced by an indigenous American who sees his culture overwhelmed by modern white society. This song kind of addresses the contrast between the artificial world of Palm Springs, which is just east of San Jacinto in the San Jacinto Mountains, and the Native American communities west of the San Jacinto Mountains. So there's quite a few communities where Native American tribes and stuff still live in that area if you kind of poke around on a map. Can dig into that if you want to. I'm not going to get too much into it.
Nice.
So the most interesting part of this whole thing, kind of what really intrigued me and why I had to sort of get my notes ready for what this song was about. So apparently the inspiration for Peter Gabriel writing this song came from when he met an Apache Indian man when he was on tour in the American Midwest in the 80s. So I guess this man worked at a motel where the band was staying at the time. So Peter Gabriel, obviously solo artist, but he has a common amount of people like who he tours with and whatnot that play bass and drums. Right. So just sort of his touring band. And I guess kind of while they were talking and just shooting the shit, he actually explained that his apartment was on fire, this being the Apache man that he met, and that he was worried about his cat, and he also had no way to get there. I guess public transportation wasn't available because it was late at night. and he didn't have a car. So I imagine he kind of was in desperation, probably sort of explaining this to Peter Gabriel later at night. And Peter Gabriel actually was just a good person and agreed to drive him back to his apartment complex.
Wow.
So good on you, Peter Gabriel. And he kind of was struck by the fact that the guy really only cared about his cat. He didn't really care about the fact that his apartment was burning down. And he kind of was intrigued by his lack of concern for sort of material items that he had in his apartment. Like, he really just cared about the cat and like wasn't even remotely concerned. I guess this is just through conversation that he had with him afterwards, after he got him back and he got his cat and everything. The cat was fine, so that was a good story.
Wow.
Good kitty story for the night. And they ended up kind of hanging out afterwards and ended up talking. And Peter Gabriel explained this super interesting tradition, apparently, that the Apache Indians had. And it was actually a ritual that this man himself had performed. So this is kind of cool. And I mean, this is going back to the 80s. So even back, I would think in 1980s or the late 70s, like that area of California was not settled as well as it is now. So I think they probably were a little bit more out of touch with modern society and things like that than you'd probably think here, I would imagine. I mean, if you just look at the history of the country, like things happened a lot earlier here where sort of indigenous people were forced off their lands and things, and it happened a lot later out in that area of the country.
And I'm still sure there was probably a lot of reservation, like Indian or Native American reservations over that way.
Yeah, exactly. So just kind of keep that in mind with this tradition. So, because I'm thinking of like what age this man would have been when he went through this as a teenager, basically. But in any event, he actually performed this Apache ritual where before a young boy can be deemed a brave in Apache culture, he goes with a medicine man into the mountains where a rattlesnake is allowed to bite him. So this is all, I actually did some digging on this, and this is kind of the common story. I don't think Peter Gabriel could have made this up. So yes, where the 14 young teenager is bitten by a rattlesnake under supervision, I guess, of a medicine man. And I'm not trying to diss Apache culture or anything by any means. I just found this pretty fascinating. Yeah. And what happens after the rattlesnake is allowed to bite him is the medicine man leaves, and the boy must either find his way down the mountain or die. So I'm not sure necessarily. I'm thinking maybe they have serum or who knows how exactly that plays out. I didn't do much more digging into that. That was pretty wild enough in my opinion. And that was the true inspiration for Peter Gabriel sort of wanting to write a song about this contrast of the two different societies and cultures that were kind of clashing quite literally and directly in that area of Palm Springs and the San Jacinto Mountains in Southern California.
That's super cool.
I thought, that was one of the most interesting kind of stories of Genesis of any song. Genesis, no pun intended, because Peter Gabriel was in Genesis. But yeah, that was pretty wild. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. So that was the inspiration for the song San Jacinto.
That's pretty wild. That is wild, dude. What a story. What a story that is.
Yeah, so check it out. It's the second song on the album, so you don't even have to listen to the whole album if you do want to pick it out, or just get the single version of it, I guess.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nice.
And yeah. So we want to get into the main topic tonight?
No, I got a jazzy music moment real quick.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Sorry. I keep forgetting. Yeah. Josh's jazzy music moment. Lay it on me. Sorry, buddy.
Real quick.
I feel bad.
Real quick.
You haven't had one in a while.
I promise.
That's why.
I promise it'll be quick.
I'll let you talk.
Nick, I was thinking about this the other day. Gautier, okay? Mm-hmm. You familiar with the band?
Yes.
Gautier, okay?
I've seen I think they did a Tiny Desk concert a while back that I saw.
Are they one of the greatest one-hit wonders of all time?
I'm trying to think. I'm not that familiar with them.
Somebody that I used to know is their song.
Yes, I have seen them on Tiny Desk. Yep, you're right. Unless they have another song I don't know about, because I feel like that song was everywhere.
It still
when we were probably in our early 20s more.
Yeah.
Like you still hear it, but I feel like it was like people that I know that it's a weird genre. I mean, it's like a pop song, but it's people, just everybody seemed to love that song and couldn't get enough of it.
I think I'm gonna stake my claim here. I think they actually might be the greatest one-hit wonder of all time.
If they don't produce anything.
If they don't produce, which it's been a while. I don't think I've heard anything else from this band.
No, and I want to say even, I think maybe it wasn't Tiny Desk Concert, but whatever I watched of them playing acoustic, I just watched that song. So I can't actually say that I don't think I've heard any other songs by them. It's not like I've sat down and listened to any of their full albums.
That song probably came out like 14, 15 years ago, I would bet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it still is like a
solid
bang.
guess.
Like it's a banger.
Where you just listened to that?
No, it popped
today?
on like a few days ago, and I'm like, what happened to this band? And then it was like, oh, nothing. So then I was like, oh, they might be the greatest one-hit wonder of all time.
I wouldn't go against it. They're definitely in that category of a one-hit wonder. Yeah. Like I said, unless there's some other single that neither of us know about.
I think it's them. If anybody else has a one-hit wonder that beats somebody that I used to know, you let me know. Send us a message.
Something tells me that with how, I mean, Gautier just sounds weird because they're not like ridiculously popular. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like if they had another song, you'd know it was by Gautier.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's just a very interesting band name.
Yeah. But that was my jazzy music moment.
So are you saying it's a good song?
No, I do. I like that song. I think that song's really good.
Yeah, I think it's a solid song.
It gets stuck in your head. And sometimes you just belt it out when you're cooking taco
meat. It's that little like somebody that I used to know. It's something about that like xylophones or something in the intro. It's not like bells or something. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cool, man.
All right, man, let's do it.
All right, let's get into the main topic. Okay, so
we're back.
As mentioned, we're back. Continuing Nick Goes West, the final part here. So, as previously mentioned in the Joshua Tree episode and the episode before that on San Diego, we wanted to save my hike, and I should say it's our hike. It was me and Ash. I was debating getting Ash on, but logistically, it was just tough to do. It's hard to do. We probably could have her. We could probably have her on at some.
Hard to
point.
do with a one and a half year old, almost two.
Yeah. If anybody's jonesing to hear Ash on the podcast again, I've been told by several people that she has a very nice podcaster voice, and I'd agree. I'm not taking. Maybe I took a little offense to it because we're the main voice of this podcast, but it's fine. Ashley
is a fantastic
She's
substitute.
She's well spoken. She doesn't have a lot of filler words like we do, which is nice.
She's a good substitute. She's very good off the bench. She's six man of the year.
Yeah.
She's Peyton Pritchard.
The ultimate pinch.
She's Peyton Pritchard to our Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum combo. Yeah, we're the all stars. You can come off the bench and drop 8 points, and that'll be a good night for you.
Okay, I'm gonna rein us back in a little bit. But yeah, anyways, Ash and I did this. It was on the Thursday of our trip, which would have been April 25th, coming up right after we did Eureka Peak in Joshua Tree. So for those of you who don't know, San Jacinto Peak is the second highest peak in Southern California. It stands at 10,834 feet. And where it is geographically, it's in Southern California. It's located just west and sort of outside of Palm Springs. So if you've been following along at all some of the Instagram posts I've been doing, our cover photo right now is literally a picture of San Jacinto from Eureka Peak. And you have that vantage point where Coachella Valley and Palm Springs are sort of in front of San Jacinto. If you were to zoom in on our tiny little podcast photo using something, you'd see that there was actually wind turbines there, and there's actually a city. And that city you can see below San Jacinto Peak in the big mountain is Palm Springs. So, and the tippity top of that big mountain in the background is San Jacinto Peak, and that's known as the San Jacinto Mountain Range.
Dude, I didn't even know that. So, I didn't even know that about our picture.
You didn't read my Instagram post?
I'm gonna have to zoom in on it. I'm gonna be honest, dude. Instagram, I don't really read the posts. I just look at the pictures.
Yeah, I think that's why Instagram's good, because you don't have to put too much. Every once in a while, I'll put like more details and stuff, but usually I just put like the name and place and like date.
Yeah.
And sometimes a little bit more. I mean, our page I try to share from my page, and then also just post like a little. I think I said like a blip of it's San Jacinto Peak, blah blah blah.
I'm sorry to get you off topic.
Nothing too crazy. It's okay. No, it's fine. I thought it was worthy of talking about because it is our cover photo right now. And I'm going to leave that one up for a while.
It's a great
photo.
Like that photo. Yeah, it's a great picture.
all the white. Apparently, when I did that poll of people being like, "You're cheating on the White Mountains," was one of the answers, and that's the answer that won out like overwhelmingly. Like out of like everybody that responded, it was like 95%.
What was the poll?
Yeah, it was like I think I just said, "What do you think of this mountain picture or our new cover photo, whatever?" And like one of the answers I put was like, "Like I love this. I don't like it. You're cheating on the White Mountains," and like the "You're cheating on the White Mountains" answer won out. So I thought that was pretty funny. That says a lot about our listener base who's responding on Instagram. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I found that pretty comical that it was like overwhelmingly
so
you're
good.
cheating on the White
That's
Mountains.
so good.
And we were cheating on the White Mountains, and I'm okay with that.
We love you too, New Hampshire.
Yeah. They'll always be here, and they'll be my first love. But there's other mountains out there, and I got to chase that high.
Gotta chase. I like it. Drop it. You just keep dropping it in there.
Yeah, I got to chase that high. Yeah, so it's located just outside Palm Springs, and that's kind of, I guess, how I ended up finding it is I literally was looking at a map and looking at higher mountains and bigger peaks sort of close to where Joshua Tree was, where we were staying. And maybe that sounds a little weird because we were just staying outside of a national park that had mountains and stuff. But ever since we've been hiking, I got to be honest, and I've been intrigued by the higher peaks out in the sort of the contiguous 48. And I was doing a little research, and I won't get too much into it, but I found it interesting. I always thought there were mountains in the lower 48 higher than 14,000 feet, but there actually aren't. There's quite a few around 14,000. Mount Whitney is in California, is the tallest out of those 14,000 footers. And you have just endless amounts of peaks that seem like sort of this above 8,000 feet range and like below 14 or 15,000, especially as you head out west. And I've always really been interested in like checking out these mountains out west, because you hear anybody that's in the White Mountains, like we have a lot of pride, I think, about our mountains here in New England, and we get a little bit like, oh, people don't understand and stuff. My very small experience of hiking out west, Joshua Tree wasn't really as crazy because it wasn't the altitude and stuff like that, but there's some big mountains out west. You can't really deny the fact that the mountains are much taller. Elevation and altitude is a thing. Altitude sickness being things that we don't have are in play. Typically, once you get above 8,000 feet, like that's actually a pretty reality. The lack of oxygen is a thing. We noticed that a little bit. I'll kind of chat that. Not like obviously there's way higher peaks, but even around, the top of San Jacinto, pretty close. It's roughly 11,000 feet, and we definitely noticed it.
That's significant.
So it's kind of cool to get out there and compare it, contrast it to the whites, and kind of see what we thought of it. And it was good just to get out there and be like, oh man, like, okay, we hiked a bigger peak out west. Like, I feel like I can actually comment more correctly sometimes if people are talking, or maybe I should say in the context, the White Mountains more shitting on West Coast mountains when they're talking about how tough our trails are and all that stuff. There's a lot of trails out there. I think that's something you got to keep in mind. Not everybody's hiked everything. There's people who have hiked a lot, but I'm sure there's nasty trails on either coast side. I
will say though, if you're gonna go out there, it's like we always say, right? Go big or go home. You went all the way out there. Yeah, you've done 4,000 footers left and right. If you're gonna go out there and do it, you gotta do it, dude. 11,000 feet. That's like significant. That's worth your while. That's worth the stay alone.
Yeah, I want to say it came up when I was looking up mountains in Joshua Tree, and I sort of went down like a Wikipedia, not rabbit hole because I wasn't like on forever, but looking at highest mountains in Southern California, and San Gorgonio came up, which is the highest ridgeline. It's around 11,500 feet north of San Jacinto, basically in California. And San Jacinto is the second highest peak in Southern California. So very quickly, my hiker brain was like, how far of a drive is this? Oh, you can take a tramway up here. It's 11 plus miles and about 2,400 feet. That's probably doable in a day. What are the conditions like? And luckily there's a pretty good website that sort of addresses that stuff. If you like Google San Jacinto peak trail conditions, you'll find it. But there's actually like, I don't know, a person or several people that go up there and mention trail conditions for that. Part of it's because the Pacific Crest Trail actually runs through the San Jacinto State Park. But yeah, in a long story short, that's kind of how I ended up being like, we want to take a day. If it's nice up there, I really want to go like hike a bigger mountain, quote unquote, bigger mountain out west.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you said, go bigger, go bigger, go home.
Make it worth your while. This is what you do, Nick. This is what you do. You might as well do it.
Oh, I was salivating when we just, I mean, I went through the drive, the funny sketch, but when we were driving on Route 10 on the way to Joshua Tree and we drove by San Jacinto, I was like, holy shit, that's a thing.
Did you come to your pants?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I was pretty excited. We'll just say that. We'll leave it at that. So just a couple of quick facts about San Jacinto Peak. I was really excited. So one of the things that makes San Jacinto very cool to look at, and kind of one of the coolest peaks in my opinion in the lower 48. Granted, I haven't done that many outside of New Hampshire. I haven't actually done any other than the ones in Joshua Tree and San Jacinto now. But it's the 6th most prominent peak in the lower 48. So prominence is basically how far it sticks up from the lowest point of land around it, how much it sort of rises up. Wow. Like you could say like Mount Washington would literally have like around 6,000 or whatever, 5,800 feet of prominence. Wow. San Jacinto, I think at its most prominent point, at least from like the area to the north, is over 8,000 feet of prominence. Wow. It rises up off the ground. Wow. So it's, if you could imagine Mount Washington going up like another couple thousand feet when you're looking at it, like that's how big San Jacinto is. And
so basically, like how if you're looking out on the horizon, it's basically 8,000 feet above the horizon.
Yeah, it depends where you are, but if you're around, like I said, I didn't find the prominence from every direction. I think the most prominent areas from technically the Salton Sea, and I mentioned this too as a fact correction last episode. Like Palm Springs is around sea level, the Salton Sea is actually below sea level. Which is shortly far away, but from that point you're around 11,000 feet almost up. So it's a pretty good ways.
That's crazy.
So what that leads to basically is you have amazing views above the land because you're very high above everything. Yeah. And it's high enough up that it still had quite a bit of snow on it as well. And kind of mentioned it sort of where it was already, but to kind of put it in perspective with some other common sort of things in that area, you have Palm Springs and Coachella Valley to the east, you have the Salton Sea to the southeast, and then you have San Gorgonio, the other mountain I was talking about, kind of to your north. And there's sort of valley between them where that wind farm was that I was chatting about on last episode. San Jacinto, or I should say the word Jacinto, or Jacinto means hyacinth in Spanish, and it's named after Saint Hyacinth. There's a whole big story on who Saint Hyacinth was if you want to get into that, but that's whom it's named after. And it's about a 50-minute drive from Joshua Tree Village. I think I might have mentioned that already. I'm not positive. So it was a pretty reasonable drive to get there. One caveat and kind of logistics, we decided to take the aerial tramway route up there, and the aerial tramway doesn't open till 10 o'clock, which was kind of sort of a bummer. I think it was either 9 or 10 o'clock. It was a little bit later than we would have preferred to start hiking. Especially nowadays, like I'm a pretty early hiker. I like to get on trail like 7 o'clock or even earlier sometimes, depending on when I'm getting up there.
Once there's daylight.
Yeah. Once there's daylight, I should clarify on that. So that is something to keep in mind if you're planning on driving there. Like definitely look the hours for the aerial tramway and stuff. The mountain itself lies in the 14,000 acre San Jacinto State Park, so just a California state park. It's not like a federal national forest or anything like that. Within the park, there's over 50 miles of trails, including the Pacific Crest Trail, which is sort of the West Coast version of the AT, PCT for short. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar with what the Pacific Crest Trail is. Maybe even a few of you have hiked portions of it, or maybe even all of it, which is super cool.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Nick?
Yeah,
this tramway, sure. What is the purpose of this tramway?
I'm going to get into that.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I'm getting too excited.
I'm getting excited.
Yeah, you seem excited. He's got his popcorn. He's ready to go. One thing as far as from the PCT perspective that makes the San Jacinto mountain range a little interesting is it's actually the first big mountain range you hit going south to north on the PCT. So it starts, I believe, like in Mexico, kind of in Southern California, works its way up. And the San Jacinto Mountains are your first sort of real big obstacle. It is, as far as I understand it. It's sort of the first big thing that you're hitting. The PCT doesn't go over San Jacinto Peak. It does go through the mountains. So I did want to clarify that. And actually, the highest point of the PCT is like over 13,000 feet, which I thought was pretty interesting, one of the passes. Wow. So you get pretty high up on that thing. But by that point, you're probably pretty adapted to going up and down in altitude, I would think. So the trail and the route that we chose to take up there is one of the more popular routes, at least if you're doing a day trip. Keep in mind with how tall this mountain is, there's actually like routes that are like over 8,000 feet a gain and like go up. But again, that's because it's a giant mountain. It's quite large. It's kind of like if you took the longest way up Mount Washington, like people do different routes and choose to do different things. Being a day trip, we kind of wanted to pick something that I felt was very reasonable for kind of me and Ash. And this route is going from the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway up to San Jacinto Peak, and it's 11.6 miles and 2,400 feet of elevation gain round trip. And kind of you're asking about the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. So I'm not exactly sure why they built it, but there's a tramway that actually it's in, as you might think, it's Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. It's just outside Palm Springs. It's not like in the main downtown area. It's probably like a 5-10 minute ride away. Giant tourist attraction because it's kind of a marvel, in my opinion. It's pretty crazy. I had never heard of it before. It takes you from 2,600 feet at the base level of the tram, which you're already kind of driving up a high road from Palm Springs just to get up there. And then it takes you up to 8,500 feet in Round Valley on the side of San Jacinto. And it does it in 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty wild going up there. I'd be lying if I said I was completely comfortable when we were going up, because not that I'm like freaked out by heights, but just you're in a cable car suspended basically above a canyon. And I think the thing that was probably would trip people out the most is that, and on the way down, this didn't seem to happen as aggressively, but as you go over each, I don't know, you call them like spires, but like the bases where that are holding the cable.
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd call that. Yeah, like each spike, the tram car actually like swings back and forth, and like on two of them it does it like pretty aggressively. Like it swings a little bit, and you're like kind of you get a little bit of like which way is up, which way is down kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because it's just weird. You're in a canyon like suspended super high up. And it's cool. The tram car actually spins 360, so no matter where you are, you keep getting like different views, and everybody can get a nice view. It's not like all the people are like stuck to one side on the mountainside, and then everybody's locked into the view on the other side.
That's cool.
I thought that was really neat. You can see sort of the desert behind you in quite literally Joshua Tree National Park in Coachella Valley behind you as you're going up. So it's pretty neat.
That's really cool. Is this something you have to pay for?
Yes. So it's $31 for each adult. I think kids under like 3 were free maybe.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple different age brackets, and that's a round trip ticket, which when I was buying tickets, the guy said sometimes he jokes with people that it's not round trip because he gets that question sometimes. Like they're just going to be left up there at 8,500 feet on San Jacinto, and they have to pay again to get down.
31. That'd be a nice little highway robbery. 31 up,
Yeah,
you got to
right.
pay me 31 to get back down.
And it was really neat going up there. There's actually a couple of restaurants right at the tram lodge. I guess you call it like the tram lodge, where the tram actually ends and brings you up to. So you can go up there. There's a lot of little trails and just stuff to do if you were just hanging on up there. It looks like I take it, it's like a thing to go up there and take kids sledding and stuff, because it's kind of funny. You think in Palm Springs it literally doesn't snow ever, but you can take a tram up to 10 minutes and be in like a winter wonderland.
That's so wild.
The winter. And I believe the tram runs pretty much year round as long as the weather allows it to.
That's crazy.
Which is so, yeah, it just notice advertisements of like kids sledding, and it's like, just go from the desert to here in like 10 minutes. It's kind of cool. Kind of neat. And yeah, I don't know exactly why it was built. I know it had some famous sort of stats as far as just from a technological standpoint, I should say. If you want to check that out online, they had a really great website. So if you want to dig in more, Josh, you can check it out.
I think I might, dude. I might start doing that right now.
Yeah, it was very neat. So, yeah, we got up there. We got on the tram. I want to say we were like the second or third group going up. We got there maybe like 10:15, 10:20. I did want to take a quick step back because it was just, and this kind of calls back to the last episode. So when we were driving there was construction. Google Maps did not intelligently reroute me around the construction, and I didn't look at the map to get there like a moron. So I ended up going down sort of a dead end road, and we're looping around. And you remember that giant wind farm that I was talking about? So we happened to be turning around right around where those wind turbines were, and it was a very windy day, and I had my windows down, and we actually got blasted with sand and rock because it was so windy. I don't know what the wind was doing. I could feel my car like shaking from the wind.
That's classic.
So I'm like trying to reroute and go around, and like I'm like getting frustrated. And all of a sudden I just get blasted in the face with a bunch of sand, which was like, I think that was life's way of just telling me just to calm down.
Relax.
Just relax, because you're on vacation. You're going to get there.
Tuck
the
it in your
mountain's not going
waistband.
anywhere. My wife may have reminded me to calm down a little bit because we're on vacation.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, whatnot. So yeah, that's just throwing it back. I thought that was just kind of funny. But yeah, we got there probably like 10:30 or something, and took the nice speedy ride up the tram. And once we got in the valley, I had known from our research we needed to find a ranger station and get a day permit to be hiking there. They ask you to do that. It's for free. You don't have to like pay anything. You just go talk to a ranger. He kind of vetted us out a little bit and asked what we were doing. We told him, hey, we're going to San Jacinto Peak. He asked if we had spikes or crampons or any sort of supplies. He had told us, he's like, you're definitely going to need spikes to get up there. I found it interesting because that online site that I was talking about earlier about trail conditions said you could probably bare boot to the peak. Just because you probably could doesn't mean you should do that. The ranger was pretty adamant that you needed some traction to get up there. Yeah. And I would very much agree with him that you needed traction in the least micro spikes like we had.
You know what, though?
So we went.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
What a good idea to make people stop in there first. To be able to like.
He was very nice too. Like he was really cool and chill.
Yeah. That's actually pretty intelligent on their part, just to make sure like probably stops a bunch of tragedy from happening to people that just trying to willy-nilly go out there and hike.
Yeah, for sure. It reminded me sort of how the AMC in areas of the White Mountains do the trail stewards, except it's not like you have to get a day permit. And I mean, when I say day permit, it was like a piece of paper and you just say like your return time, your destination. Right. You basically, it was that type of paper like where it's like carbon on one side, so I just filled it out and then you keep a copy of it, and then all I had to do on the return was sign my return time and like leave it in like a little mailbox looking thing, just so that they know that you're out of there.
Yeah. So in case they're gonna start sending somebody to come find you.
Yeah, exactly. And someone, I mean, when I was there was still a ranger there, and he actually like looked at my sheet and asked how our day was and stuff. Wow. So that was pretty cool. It almost reminded me a little bit of Baxter State Park, sort of in that regard.
Yeah.
So that was neat. And there's a lot of winter activities too. You can go up there. I mean, people ski and do all these things. So I think that's their way of being like, just fill out a permit so we know what you're doing up here, and do whatever you want, because we can't control where you go up here. Like it's the mountain's too big. Like I don't know acreage wise how it compares to the presidentials, even Mount Washington. My guess is that it's probably significantly bigger, and way higher altitude, and you're dealing with way more snow and things like that. Right. So that's their way to sort of control things. The next thing that caught my eye, and I'll have to share a picture of this on the PUDs Instagram. I think I shared it way back through a story because I just found this kind of cool. Well, cool and scary. I guess cool is maybe not the right word. So there was a sign about mountain lions, and it kind of started out being like, oh, hey, mountain lions they live here. They're an important part of the ecosystem. They're seldom seen. And then it kind of escalates a little bit to be like, sometimes their behavior is really unpredictable. Again, something to the effect of like they're seldom seen. They're kind of a rare sight if you do catch one. And then like a blip about being like, if you have small children, make sure to keep them close in the San Jacinto State Park area. And also don't hike alone. And again, that they're very stealthy creatures and that you won't see them. So what I got from that was that there's definitely mountain lions in San Jacinto State Park because they have a warning sign right off the tram about them. I take it that they probably don't have a lot of issues with them from what they talk about. But again, sort of that waiver of like, hey, like if you get attacked by a mountain lion, we gave you a warning sign and you shouldn't be hiking by yourself, or you should be keeping your children close. Right. And if you do get attacked or eaten, not that I think a mountain lion would eat you, but you probably won't have any idea what's happening because apparently they're very stealthy because they're just like a giant, like a 100-pound house cat that is very good at hunting you.
See, so but they just needed one more sign. Just one more sign saying, this is what you do if you see a mountain lion. And then just giving you like, make yourself big. Yeah, but nobody
ever sees one.
Make yourself small.
That's what I'm saying.
Smack some sticks together. Something, dude. Give me something.
Again, that's what I was saying, though. It was just funny because it's like, you're probably not going to see one, you don't see one. But then they were like, but keep small children close and don't hike alone. So it's like, so are they an issue or are they not an issue? And like, I'm getting mixed signals here.
Once again, if they're there, just tell me what to do when I see one. Like, one more sign. That's all they did. They just stopped short of that for some reason. Weird.
Yeah, it was funny, and I was joking with Ash. I'm like, we don't have those in the White Mountains. Like, you don't see warning signs about mountain lions maybe attacking you. So that was kind of funny. It really didn't worry me. It kind of just, the phrasing on it I thought was just very interesting. It kind of just relieved liability from them and kind of like you're hiking on your own.
Speaking of mountain lions, there's a giant deer in my backyard right now that just freaked me out.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's a whole family. It's a whole family of deer.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
They better not be eating my grass seed.
Yeah. That's when I'm like, they're probably eating something. You got to be careful with those little buggers. They're majestic, but they eat everything.
I got to scare them out of there. All right, go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
All right. It's all good. No, I saw you poking around. So yeah, mountain lions, a thing there. I don't think you really have to worry about them, but just be aware. Maybe don't hike alone. I would say if you're going to be up there, especially if you don't know the area and stuff, it might not be a bad idea. Yeah. So got our permit, saw the mountain lion warning sign, and we were ready to get going. So the route that we were going to take was the Round Valley Trail, which leads you up through Round Valley. That's kind of the area the tram drops you up into. And that would take us up to the Wellman Divide, or Wellman's Divide. I've seen it referred to by both terms, at 9,700 feet. So that's a pretty good bit of up there. And then from the Wellman Divide, you take the Peak Trail up to San Jacinto Peak. And this hike would be out and back. So yeah, by the stats, not too bad. I thought it was pretty reasonable. I also really wanted to be cautious because we hadn't done a quote unquote higher altitude hike before, so I wasn't exactly sure how that would affect us. I knew from the trail reports ahead of time that we'd see snow. And that pretty much started right away. I think we made it maybe a 0.2 miles or 0.3 miles and we pretty much threw our spikes on. So one thing that's interesting, and I think it's more knowledgeable and a thing with people out there just because of how long the snowpack lasts in those peaks as opposed to even like in New Hampshire. But hiking in the afternoon and sort of the late morning hours can be tough this time of year because it makes the snow super mushy. And I was kind of already realizing by 11, 12 o'clock, it was around when we hit Wellman Divide. It was generally smooth sailing up until that point. The trail was pretty well packed. Post holes here and there, but we just had our spikes on and we were just kind of taking our time going up, admiring sort of the different type of woods up there and stuff. But after we got past Wellman Divide, it became really mushy as we made our way up sort of over the top of the valley. We found ourselves post holing a bunch. I kind of opted not to fly with snowshoes, and I don't know. We definitely could have used them up here. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. It probably would have been a good decision to have them. I think it would have saved us some effort and some exertion. Josh is just smiling right now.
Because it's always the story.
Yeah.
You didn't have them and you needed them.
Yeah, and again, nobody else up there that day that we crossed, and we didn't cross that many people. We actually had the trail to ourselves mostly until the Wellman Divide. We passed a couple that were hiking just to the divide. They had done San Jacinto Peak before, but didn't have traction, so they knew right away, we're not going to be able to get up there.
Yeah.
So they kind of made the smart decision. We crossed a young woman who was doing an overnight up there, just over San Jacinto Mountain State Park, and she had been up to the peak earlier that morning. And she said the conditions were pretty good, but again, she came down probably an hour or so before we were going up. She was kind of hanging out there having lunch and cooking and stuff. So it kind of made the conditions a little bit different from what she was describing. I kind of expected that. And then we crossed a group of 3 other guys pretty much heading up there. They look like college buddies or something, sort of doing their thing. And they had crampons on. The young lady had micro spikes. And we sort of just had our micro spikes. I didn't feel like we were vastly underprepared where people oh man, I'm going waist deep in snow or anything. So as we got past the Wellman Divide and the temps started warming up, like I said, we had to deal with that mushy snow. We were post-holing quite a bit. And switchbacks out west, definitely very true. This is something I've heard people talk about. The phenomena that we have in the Whites with trails just going straight up the mountains, not a thing everywhere. I will also say it was just kind of funny because me and Ash kept looking for sections in the trail that were just going to beeline straight up. And you could actually see old tracks from it. It looked like someone actually went up in snowshoes and then maybe skied down sort of the bowl into the valley. But we figured for it being unfamiliar territory for us, it would probably be best just to stick to sort of the established trail route that people were doing.
Good call.
I did notice in a few sections, I had a all trails route, which I don't rely on 100%, but even on the map that we did veer off a bit in portions from where the actual trail appeared to have gone. Again, I think this is just sort of that deal in the winter where whoever broke out the trail first, that's kind of the tracks everybody follows for perpetuity. So probably since last snowstorm, everybody's sort of been following that just track up through the snow to San Jacinto Peak.
Do you notice the switchback makes a little less strenuous on you?
For sure. Yeah, I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were parts that were strenuous, but there was no area that I thought was even ridiculously steep. Like there was maybe 2 or 3 sections that were sketchy for other reasons.
Yeah.
But as far as just pure steepness, yeah, I absolutely think so.
Yeah.
And kind of it reminded me when you're talking about strenuous. So I felt like and this is our first time we've ever hiked like above the height of Mount Washington. Like we've never been, that's as high as we've been ever.
Right.
As far as hiking on our own 2 feet. And generally I was kind of looking up some of the logistics of this, like around 11,000 feet, like you're getting a pretty significantly less amount of oxygen than you are at, say, like Boston at sea level. I felt like almost it was like if someone had told me I was sick or something, that's like almost how I felt. Like I felt like I just couldn't put my finger on what was different about there, other than the fact that you look around, you know, you're very, very high up, and like I know where we are.
Yeah.
But I really feel like if I was just dropped there theoretically and nobody told me where I was, I would have just thought I was just out of breath more than normal.
Yeah.
I think the recovery, I think was a little bit more time than what I'm used to. I mean, I go running and do stuff, so I think I'm in like halfway decent cardio shape. But both me and Ash noticed for sure, like it's just like why am I getting tired a little bit easier than normal?
Right.
It wasn't like so drastic that I was like, oh man. And to be completely honest, me and Ash both agreed that the real tough part of this hike was, like I said, that whole mushy section. I'd say the last couple miles before we got to San Jacinto Peak really burned us out on the way up. Like we were post-holing a bunch, slip sliding. We had to deal with sort of this side hill into this bowl where if you slid and it was iced over, you definitely would want an ice axe to be up there. It was mushy enough where I wasn't super concerned. We were kind of using trekking poles or just kind of pushing in with our hands to hold on.
Yeah.
But there was definitely some fairly exposed areas in the mushy snow on some side hill where you definitely had to be very careful, and you would not want to fall. Like a fall wouldn't be fatal, but you'd be going down quite a bit in the snow and just sort of exhausting yourself. So that really, I think, was the most strenuous part of the hike. That's kind of really what burned us out, other than the altitude definitely coming into play, but I don't think it was as a big of thing as I thought it was going to be, I guess. And again, this is 11,000 feet. I mean, there's Everest, there's all in the United States, the 14ers. I'm imagining you're probably, I know a lot of times you're not dealing with much more elevation gain than say the whites, but that whole factor of like just being up there and your body not necessarily being used to, especially where we live, being used to just being that efficient on that much less oxygen than normal. So yeah,
it makes sense. I mean, I think it's thin.
Yeah.
Like the oxygen is thinner, so your blood's getting less of it when you're breathing in. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that was my take on sort of at least hiking up to 11,000 feet. Hopefully we'll get up a 14er one day and kind of do more experience. I definitely wouldn't try to do that in a day. I think I'd go somewhere and try to like give my body a little bit of chance. Cause keep in mind too, we're literally going at to like our house in Joshua Tree is 3,200 feet to basically sea level, driving through Palm Springs, and then jetting up to 8,500 feet within 10 minutes, and then hiking up to 11,000 feet roughly from there. So I'm sure that's a thing too. Did read a little bit about altitude sickness. Generally it takes 6 to 8 hours at least for symptoms to start. If you do get it, at a very high level, I'm not experienced with this, but I figured I'd throw this in just cause I did research it a bit. And, generally the thing is if you start feeling nauseous, like you're throwing up, or you get like a splitting headache and like you're really getting sensitivity to light and getting nausea, then that's like a sign like, hey, yeah, you got to turn around. I mean, there's a whole host of symptoms, but that's kind of the big ones.
Yeah.
And like I said, it can occur like even down to 8,000 feet or a little bit lower. And from what I was reading, like even lower than 8,000 feet for certain people. So it's totally a kind of a weird thing that I think there's factors that people understand for why it happens to people, but it can happen to certain people on certain trips and not happen to certain people on certain trips. Like it's kind of a weird thing. And bottom line is you just need to slow down and kind of pay attention to it if you do feel like that. But we were both pretty cool. I think Ash maybe felt lightheaded a little bit once, like kind of after like stumbling and then getting up quick, but that's also can just happen anyways. I'm sure the altitude didn't help it and probably amplified how she felt, but both of us pretty much felt fine other than just being more tired than usual. So yeah, after that whole stretch that we were just really a grind, we were leapfrogging with those 3 other gentlemen that were buddies. And they got to the summit maybe a little bit before us. We actually crossed a guy at a hut, that's just below the summit. That sounded like he was from like New Zealand or Australia or something. He had this super cool accent. I ended up asking him, probably because I was just like, and just wanted to get up to the summit.
You all right, mate?
But he was just, but he was just chilling up there. There is a little shelter below the summit. If that's what everybody in Australia says.
That's what they sound like.
But shelter just below the summit if you did need to chill or hang out. It actually looked like kind of a nice little lunch spot, kind of what I was thinking. So shortly below the summit. And once we kind of got up there, we were sort of poking around. Like I said, following different paths. There definitely was sort of a hodgepodge of paths as we got towards the peak itself. And then eventually we popped out, and it was sick. One of those things that it was just very cool coming from the Northeast and being like, hey, we're out in California doing this. And the views were outstanding. It wasn't a wooded summit, but there were trees. Like, you had 360 views. But in my head too, like, I feel like the thing that I mistook the most from what I was anticipating is I fully expected, I'm like, oh, we're going to be above tree line and like open rocks for like the last couple miles. And like, we were in trees. Like, you could see across the valley and it was open, but there were trees like everywhere. Wow. So it was just kind of funny because the difference in the climate and stuff. And right up to, I didn't really go into the weather, which, you know, I love to talk about the weather and the temperatures, but it was basically sunny. And it was maybe like in the mid 40s at the tram station. It was actually in the 20s up top. And the ranger was actually kind of like concerned. He's like, it's pretty nippy and cold up there and it's windy. And I'm like, it's just kind of funny because I'm sure it gets cold in California, but anybody like will feel me when you say like we're hiking the way. It's like I've hiked in like negative 25 degree wind chill this year, so I'm like I'm pretty good with a 20 degree just base temp and like
easy there,
20
Ranger
degree wind
Smith.
chill.
That's shorts weather. We're from New England.
yeah. I almost wore my shorts today. I actually wore pants that day. I almost could have worn shorts now that you mentioned that. But anyways, so yeah, we got up there. We were fortunate enough that those guys were up there because we got a picture of me and Ash, so that was kind of cool. We don't always get that up there, or I try to set up a camera.
Nice. And
we took some pictures of them, took a bunch of pictures of the surrounding area. San Gorgonio was probably the thing that stuck out to me the most, that peak to the north. And then again to the east, you just got like the desert, and literally you just see into Joshua Tree, and you can see sort of the east is different. And then to the west, it was actually like sort of an undercast, which I believe was the marine layer blowing in from sort of the west coast in the Pacific Ocean. So it was actually just all clouds on the western side. And it was kind of neat. You could see the clouds as soon as they like hit sort of the San Jacinto Mountains and the mountains to the south, and they'd hit that dry valley, they just like disappear and turn into nothing. So it was kind of like they just kept evaporating and hitting the valley, and you just see them pouring over.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, that was really neat.
Like
I tried to get a time lapse of that with. Exactly. I tried to get a time lapse with my phone camera on that, and it actually blew over into the snow, and it was too windy up there. So I tried to get some footage of that, but it was fine. But yeah, dude, really, really beautiful up there. Really outstanding. Can see why there's like many naturalist quotes about San Jacinto Peak and stuff. And I almost felt like it was hard to tell, like if I wouldn't have known like how high we were, because I always talk about that human depth perception. I feel like we just don't have good depth perception as humans. So I could have been like up 5,000 feet or 15,000 feet. I probably wouldn't have known, because everything just becomes so small and sort of faded after a while. You're just kind of like, I don't know, like we're pretty high up. Like you could tell we were higher up, I think, than anywhere I'd been before, but I wasn't necessarily like, oh man, like I'm standing on the edge of like an 8,000 foot prominence or something like that. I didn't necessarily feel like that. Yeah, it was very, very cool. I feel like I keep saying very cool, but it was. So yeah, that's kind of the route we took up there. Fortunately, by the time we made our way back down, the temperatures were dropping again. I'm not sure exactly what time it was when we hit the summit. I would say it was probably around 2:00 or so, like 5-ish hours up, and it took us just under 3 hours, I think, to get down. And again, we stopped in like 8. I think that was a pretty leisurely pace. Probably could have made it a bit faster. Didn't want to push ourselves, again, being East Coast hikers going up, trying to do that in a day. And frankly, we just wanted to enjoy it. And it was super fun to have Ash with me. Nobody else I'd rather have hiking up there with me. Beautiful. That was super cool. Even though, and I guess she won't mind me mentioning, we realized at the Wellman Divide that she forgot her food bag at home. So it was a good thing that I brought extra food. Josh's reaction. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. She forgot her food bag at home. Fortunately, we had plenty of water, and we had eaten a pretty good breakfast. But yeah, so I pretty much ate nothing but jerky, and then she kind of had some trail mix. And when we made it work, I'm glad I thought to throw some extra trail mix. And something that morning was funny. Like, I'm like, I probably have enough. I'm like, I'll throw some extra in case we like hang out and want to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, she forgot her food bag, unfortunately, like on the counter of the house we were at. But it was all good. I had extra food, and yeah, I just want to say, Ash, that was super fun up there. That was something else coming from people that don't hike at all. Like I think we were giving ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back, which I think was due just because we didn't grow up hiking at all. And to be out in hiking in the Whites, and then now we're like hiking in like California, like basically on our own.
No kidding.
Met some people out there and had some fun chatting with them for sure on San Jacinto Peak. Didn't grab any names, but they were all super fun. If you were up there on that day,
I hope you're listening. Hope you're listening to the PUDs Podcast.
I hope you're listening. And I thought we'd see more people just on the popularity that I'd sort of read about the peak. But again, we saw like 6 people-ish hiking.
Yeah.
I guess all day actually going to San Jacinto Peak. And I suspect we were the last people that summited up there that day. But anyways, to wrap it back, coming down in the afternoon, fortunately, the trail conditions were slightly better, still annoying. We were still post-holing, but because it was getting colder again, the snow was actually starting to freeze up. So that kind of helped a little bit in terms of traction and us punching through. Fortunately, by the time we hit the Wellman Divide on the way down, the trail was literally just packed and frozen for the way out. So we made really good time for Wellman Divide back to the tramway station. Again, not that we were rushing. And... oh yes, I definitely didn't want to forget this. Just reviewing my notes. I was going to mention this in the beginning, but I didn't want to like throw everybody off the vibes of sort of the hiking logistics of hiking San Jacinto. But it was funny. We're going through on the way down, and I was kind of thinking, and this was like just random thoughts when you're hiking all day, and I'm like, these trees in this lower Round Valley area are freaking huge. Like these have to be like, I was like, my brain was like, maybe these are redwoods or something. Like these have to be some sort of big California trees. And that's sort of the very bottom area, like literally right when you get off the tram, you kind of see this grove of these trees in Round Valley. And I was doing some research after, and it turned out they were actually giant sequoia trees.
Which is actually the biggest sequoias.
Those are actually the biggest tree on the planet.
Wow.
So they were very big trees. We got pictures near them. I just said to Ash, I'm like, I feel like these are like Jurassic Park style trees, which I think they filmed some of Jurassic Park in the Redwood National Forest.
That's crazy.
Or maybe I think there's a Sequoia National Forest too. Don't hold me to that, listeners. But yeah, so that's why they looked really big, because they were huge trees. And this was a super interesting fact. So there was a forest fire throughout the Hall Canyon in 1974 on San Jacinto, which I take it the Hall Canyon encompasses that Round Valley area and stuff. And apparently it left the soil bare enough for trees and stuff that the U.S. Forest Service actually had the idea to plant a grove of giant sequoias up there in 1974. So, yeah, there's a grove of about 150 naturally producing giant sequoia trees up there.
That's
so
awesome.
That was pretty neat. Naturally producing just being the distinction that like nobody planted them, like they're starting to germinate themselves and perpetuate up there, which is really neat. So, there's a couple different types. Like at first I was like, were giant sequoias the same as redwoods, but they're different trees. And it's my understanding, giant sequoias, like I said, biggest tree on Earth. They're also the biggest living organism on Earth, which is pretty neat. And giant sequoias don't get as tall as redwoods, but they actually get like their girth, for lack of a better word, and their circumference of the base of the trunk. Josh is making eyebrows at me. Oh man. But it gets significantly larger than what redwood trees get.
That's
so they're
awesome.
Literally the biggest trees on Earth.
That's awesome.
So yeah, my thinking when we were walking through, and it was just kind of funny because I think in a new place too, you're like so like not overstimulated, but I'm just looking around and taking it all in, and like I just was like, man, these trees are huge. Like me and Ash got a picture by one. I'm like, damn, like that's way bigger than any tree I've ever seen in my life. And it turns out that there were species of trees that are literally the biggest on the
tree
planet
you've ever seen in your life. Yeah.
So that was kind of a bonus. I didn't know anything about this. I actually did a pretty good bit of reading about hiking up there too, and didn't really come across anything about this.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty neat. That was sort of just a bonus treat. I'm like, and we got to see giant sequoia trees.
Yeah,
so that was pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
And that's, again, if you just go up to the tram, they're like there. So like, even if you just want to go up and do some littler hikes and hiking trails up there, you can see them pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I guess the only other thing I want to say about hiking that is, like, even if you aren't looking to do San Jacinto Peak and do kind of that long of a hike, there's a bunch of smaller trails like leaving from that tramway area. Like I said, 50 miles of trails throughout the state park from all different areas, including the PCT. So you can definitely find what you want, I think, out of your adventure. We're just peak baggers, so we were looking to get up there, and that's why we came upon that route.
From start of the hike to the end, to when you basically got back to like the tram, how long did it take you?
About it, I think it was just under 8 hours, maybe like 7.5 or something. A good bit, like I said, the majority of the times it was at least 4 or so hours getting up there, and then that whole time span includes breaks and everything. So
you got back to the tram like 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, something like that. I think we made like the 7:15 tram, and that's another thing. It runs like every 15 minutes, or it should. So we actually just missed like the first tram, and then the second one we were like, and it's actually kind of not mean to the hikers, but these stats don't include the fact that you probably have to walk up, and I had my watch on still so I could tell, but you have to walk up about another 100 or so feet vertically to get up to the tramway station. On the way back or on the way there, you descend into the valley from the tramway station. So you got one last little bit of up. So like, we're literally like, to finish the hike, we're like going up the stairs, getting back to the tram, because the elevator also wasn't working for some reason. So that was kind of funny, but yeah, it's really convenient that it runs every 15 minutes, and it runs till like 9 p.m. at night or something.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty good.
We had plenty of time still. I'd take it that's probably because there's restaurants up there, but it's kind of nice if you're a hiker, you don't have to worry about finishing too late.
Yeah.
Even though we still had plenty of daylight left.
I wonder what would happen if you were still up there after 9, like if they wouldn't send you a tram. I would imagine they would have to, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it becomes like a ghost town, or if they just charge you extra or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it goes away or anything. I'm sure people aren't working there at some
Right.
point, but yeah, I don't know. I don't plan on trying to find out. We had a blast. So we took the tram back down. This was just kind of a funny like Boston thing, but they were playing Sweet Caroline. This tram driver was super funny on the way down, or operator.
Yeah.
He was super funny. It was like blasting music, and we definitely had people in the tramway car that seemed like they had been probably doing a little drinking at 8,500 feet in the restaurant. So they were all singing along, and we were going down, and sort of the sun was getting a little bit lower, and you could see sort of Joshua Tree, the desert, Coachella Valley in front of us. And it was really neat, and just a bunch of plants blooming along the hillsides, and it was cool too, just to like, get back to our house, and it's like, and we're in the desert again. Like, it was
probably a pretty epic sunset from the sky. No.
Yeah, we didn't really quite see sunset. Sunset was more on the way home.
Yeah.
But I think if you were up on San Jacinto Peak or just at the Tramway Lodge, I think it'd be pretty sick. It's like kind of like a bowl area where that valley is, and then on the way back, I really noticed you had a pretty view of the clear route up to the ridgeline from Wellman Divide that you sort of take up to San Jacinto Peak. You can't see the peak from where the tram lot is, but you can see pretty darn close to it.
Nice.
And then on the way home, like, the most epic thing is like it's easily viewable. So like, we're just driving back home, and like you could see like the peak from 8,000 feet below like where we were.
Yeah, that's so
which
cool.
was just kind of.
That's so.
I'm like,
cool.
I can't believe we're up there. I'm like, thank you for the invention of that tramway, because it would have taken us quite a bit longer and a lot more planning to get up there. So it was pretty neat. Yeah. I don't know if that breaks any hiking lists that are out there or whatever, because we took the tram up. But I think when you're doing like 2,500 feet still of gain from a tram, it's not like we took it up to Cannon, up to the summit or something. Like, we still had our work cut out for us from that point on. Yeah, so I think that was pretty much my summary of it. We kind of went home and got some food. One thing I didn't mention in the Joshua Tree episode is that if you're there like on a Thursday or weekdays, a lot of stuff in Joshua Tree closes pretty early. So I think we had to go to like Walmart to get some like prepared foods for dinner and stuff.
Oh, Ashley loves.
And we stopped and got some.
Ashley loves prepared foods.
Yeah. Oh, she does. She does. And we got some subs from like a sort of a like a chain restaurant or whatever. Nice. But we were just looking for places to find that were open. Nice. So we didn't really care. We're super happy. I was stoked.
Ashley loves a nice prepared lasagna just sitting in a tray.
She does love her prepared foods.
Hi,
I love you, Ashley. You're amazing. You're amazing. Yeah, man. So any kind of
Nice.
questions that came to
No,
mind?
I think we hit all of them. I think I hit all the questions. So total gain was like basically from the tram is where you start your total gain. So like 2,500 feet. You're talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
They have 2,400 feet listed. I got a little bit more than that on my watch.
Yeah.
Really just because I think it is a pretty good. It's not a bad climb, but it's a noticeable climb back up to the tramway.
2,500 feet in 8 hours. That sounds actually doable.
And like 11, a little over 11 and a half miles.
Yeah. How would you rate it? Tough? Like,
I don't know. I definitely didn't think it was easy. I think it was difficult.
but was it the conditions?
I think it was just tough because the conditions, I think, and then again the altitude making a bit of a difference with just how fast we were moving. Right. I think that made it more challenging. But yeah, conditions that, I mean, I don't think it's harder than some of the winter hikes I've done in the Whites. To be honest, I mean, I think the temperatures and some of the elements and stuff, and it just depends on the day. Like I'm sure people hike it in dead winter and do other things too. But I mean, overall, I wasn't like, oh man, like it wasn't like I got back from doing like I'd say like the most exhausted I felt probably in my hiking career is after we did the Bonds Traverse, and we were well into hiking and in hiking shape, but not like in the shape I am now. Yeah. In regards to hiking, definitely in better shape than I was at that time. But yeah, we were tired.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered. It was like a middle of the road. Good. Like I don't think it was I don't think it was like, oh my god, I can't get to the top. Like we didn't ever think we weren't going to make it up or turn around or anything like that. Good. Like we knew we were going to get up there. So.
What a fantastic experience to celebrate your 5th anniversary, and you know, I'm proud of you for going out there and like I said, you want to go. If you go whale watching, you want to see the whale, right? So
yeah,
you went and you saw the whale and you rode that whale.
Something like that.
It's a story to tell because you can do 4,000 footers all day of the week, but to hit something that big, like when you may never go out there again. I'm glad that you actually did it. Like you went out there and did it. Proud of you, buddy.
Yeah, we had fun. I was going to cap it off by saying I think we both want to go out there and do that again.
Okay.
I don't know how long it'll be, but yeah, we're both. I know me personally too. Like I definitely want to try to get out and do a 14,000 footer one day.
We need to
14er and get out there and prepare for it and stuff. But I think it gave both of us a little confidence of being like, hey, we can go here and
this is something that you can do. Right.
Yeah, we can do it.
Right.
Like yeah,
we got to get the families together and go to Arizona and do something over there.
Yeah, dude, that'd be super fun. I'm totally down to go to the Southwest or go out west or whatever again.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's a different world. I'm not gonna harp on it a ton more because we talked about it much. But yeah, I really enjoyed the desert. Like I definitely liked it out there.
Sweet.
I love the ocean. I love where we live too. Don't get me wrong. The fact that we didn't see grass for like 5 days was kind of interesting. Yeah. Like there's just like little things that are here that you just don't notice.
It's a completely different climate. It's like seeing an alien. Like you don't see this, you don't experience this every day. Like yeah, obviously we've seen sand at the beach before. We've seen cactuses in plants and on TV, but never growing out of the ground, blowing into your ankle, like all that stuff. Like
no. I still, and for the listeners, I still have like bumps on my ankle. I think there's actually little pieces that were left in there. It was funny, like one came out, almost like a splinter came out of my finger, and I'm pretty sure it was a piece of cactus that was left in there. And now they're coming out of my ankle. So
that's wild.
Teddy bear cholla, don't get close to them.
Don't do it.
All right, man.
You ready? Ready to get into the descent?
Yeah, let's descend.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I started watching some of it, and I'm going to let you roll with this one because you watched the full thing and you wanted to do it. So how about that Tom Brady roast? I think a lot of people are talking about it, and I see why, because it was, I've watched like 85% of it, and it was hysterical.
That Tom Brady roast, and you told me where you ended off, so I won't spoil any of the end for you. But that Tom Brady roast was fantastic, and let me say, like Drew Bledsoe, he was hilarious. Like out of all the athletes, he was probably the best.
Completely agree. He was super funny.
When
he was witty.
Yeah.
and the way he was talking was super funny.
When he said, "Tom, I have two things that you'll never have. I was drafted in the first round, and my 28th year wedding anniversary, which was yesterday."
Yeah.
And I was dying, dude.
Like burn.
It was so good. But yeah, it's cool that they brought the roasts back. That one was obviously epic because Tom Brady is Tom Brady, right? So and the people that they had, the comedians that they had, they were good for the most part. The comedians were good, but I know they're going to try to continue to run with it, and I don't know if you're ever going to be able to top what they did with Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like when I didn't realize it was 3 hours.
Yeah,
like I knew it was
a
a long one, but yeah, that's quite a bit of organizing. I imagine with everybody they had, the fact that they had Bill Belichick. We were talking when we just logged on and we were chatting a little bit, but like, man, I was shocked to see it. Like you said, he's a changed man now, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was so weird to see Bill Belichick. Yeah. I'm like, this is like a roast.
Yeah,
he's Bill Belichick. Why is he here? This
guy never smiles.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him smirk that much in like my entire lifetime as a Patriots fan.
Him telling jokes was good. Robert Kraft was good when they all had the shot together. Like it was cool to see them kind of back together. But obviously,
Gronk spiked the shot class.
Gronk spikes the shot. Gronk was like a mess, dude. He was a mess. He went off the rails for a little bit and like made a bunch of penis jokes, and it was like, all right, Gronk, we get it. It's enough. Enough's enough.
I thought it was funny, and I take it not scripted when Kevin Hart literally was like, he's like, sound it out, Gronk. He's like, catch up to where you are. Because you could tell he just totally lost his spot on the teleprompter.
Yeah. But no, that roast was very good.
Spiked his shot glass.
Yeah, he spiked the shot glass. The whole front row definitely got hit with shrapnel. Yeah, but it was really good. Anybody who hasn't checked it out, it is on Netflix, 3 hours long, so might have to do it in a couple sittings. But yeah, a lot of celebrities, a lot of comedians and athletes, former Patriots, stuff like that. So especially for us around here, there's a lot of nostalgia there.
I was going to mention too, sort of at a little bit higher level, looking at it, and this is just sort of my personal feeling. So take it with like a couple cents or whatever the saying is. Take it if you will,
with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt. There we go. I can't think of my my analogy sort of metaphor deals tonight, but I really thought it was cool because first of all, and without giving much away, they made fun of everything,
right?
Like from race to sex, gender, sexual preference, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, I hope we're in a place, especially after the cancel culture became such a thing. It seemed like when my theory is just people were angry during COVID, and it got into a lot of different places, that anger and sort of frustration with what was going on in the world. And it seems like maybe we turned a corner if Netflix could put that out and nobody pulled it back. Like even I'm thinking back to when Chappelle was on there, when he did his first special in a while, they tore that down. Yeah. And I'm like, with Netflix leaving that up, I'm like, to me, there was nothing that Chappelle was talking about that was like really more avant-garde than what they were talking about. Avant-garde's a weird word to use, but like there was nothing that was like, I thought they crossed over the line or the proverbial line. Yeah. I think I think if you did that show in 2021, people would have got like annihilated. Like people would have been like flabbergasted and like ashamed, and like it probably would have gotten pulled off Netflix like a couple days later or something. But I'm hoping as a society, it's just good to see like just people laughing and making jokes about everything, and like nobody taking themselves too seriously. It was really refreshing. Like I really enjoyed it.
I think the roast is one of those things that kind of transcends all that stuff, because it's like you understand what the purpose of that is for.
Yeah,
you are
it's
there
context, but
to hurt people's feelings. Like, so you're gonna say some things that are gonna hurt feelings, and I think because everybody kind of understands that, it's like, all right, yeah, it's a roast. We get it. But why can't we do that with all of comedy and say this is comedy? That's
my question though. Is it's like, it's generally not meant to. The vast majority of it's not meant to hurt anybody. So it's just funny. Like, I'm not saying everything that came out of that time and in society, especially in the US, was like bad because I think that it drew attention to things that maybe needed it, but like canceling like people for stuff they said like 30 years ago, and then just not allowing comedians to try to be funny. Like
wild.
I mean, there's things you probably shouldn't make fun of, but I mean, some of the stuff that people were getting called out for was just a lot. And
yeah.
I won't get too much into it, but I really was thinking while we were watching it, and I said that to Ash, I'm like, I feel like we're turning a corner finally again, where it's like, people can just say this thing, and it's like, just make fun of everybody. Like, who cares? It's supposed to be funny. A lot of it's contextual. Yeah. Don't try to drill too much into it at face value. Like, don't just look at a quote of what was said in this roast without like knowing the context of it. And it's like, it's comedy. It's supposed to be good. And I thought it was good to see everybody making fun of everybody and everybody burning each other. Right. And from football players to like Belichick to like Robert Kraft to Brady to different comedians.
Dana White, it was Kim Kardashian. Like it was a bunch of people. I think Gronk got it the worst though. Gronk definitely got roasted.
He didn't
more than
like you said. He didn't do himself any favors though. No. Like he did not.
He's a big.
I think you need a writer, Gronk or something.
Yeah. You get him deep, Nick. We can do a whole episode on cancel culture.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's for another time. But just thoughts in my mind when I was watching that. It was cool, and hopefully we'll finish it after this.
Let's get deep onto this hypothetical.
Yeah, I heard you got a good one.
I got a good one, dude. I think this one's good. This one's a real This one's a real thinker. All right. Nick, you work in an office. Generally, you are popular with your coworkers. However, you discover that there are currently two rumors circulating the office gossip mill, and both involve you. The first rumor is that you got drunk at the office holiday party and had sex with one of your married coworkers. This rumor is completely true, but most people don't believe it. The second rumor is that you have been stealing hundreds of dollars of office supplies and then selling them to cover a gambling debt. This rumor is completely false, but virtually everyone assumes it is factual. Which of these two rumors is more troubling to you?
Wow, that's just weird.
So
which of the two rumors are more troubling to me?
So you had
at a moral level?
had sex with
at an office vibe level.
Yeah. Which is more troubling to you in general? So you had sex with one of your married coworkers, which is true, but nobody believes it, or you're stealing thousands of dollars of office supplies and then selling them to cover a gambling debt, which is false, but everybody thinks it's true. They all think you're a degenerate gambler and you're selling Post-it notes to try to pay off your debt.
So I think at a personal level, getting drunk and having sex with a coworker would be a lot, especially being married in my case, so that would be a giant problem.
Right.
If I was single and that just happened, I mean, I'd probably say that the office supply thing's more of a problem, like, right? Because that's just like, who would do that? Like, that's such like a weird, like, I just imagine I'm just walking out with like boxes of like Sharpies and staplers and stuff like that, and like selling them to some dude in like a car for like cash or something. Like, that's what I just imagined.
But the best part is like, that one's not even the true one. Like, that one's not even happening, but everybody thinks that it's happening.
Yeah. I think from a single perspective, if like, I was in some alternate reality, I think the second one would be worse, but I think in reality, the first one would probably still be worse. Yeah. Not by probably, I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Because that's just, it's just awkward for so many things. Like the normal things aside, I'm just thinking from like work vibes, like that's super awkward.
Right. Well, I
don't know.
The way that this one is set up is like, it's almost, you'd rather, like, the one that's almost more troubling is the one that people believe, because it's like, if you had sex with one of your coworkers but nobody believes it, it's almost like it didn't even happen to everybody else. You know what I mean? So the court of public opinion, you're still innocent of that, even though that's what you actually did, and it's a real scumbag thing to do. But on the other hand, everybody believes that you're taking like all this stuff because you're a degenerate gambler and like you have to pay off your debt. So it's like almost like,
I feel like
even though that's not true, that is the more troubling of the two. Because people actually believe that. Because the other one's like, it doesn't even matter. They don't even believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's troubling. I would think, this is weird. I feel like this is almost like more of a commentary one than like a direct pick one.
Right.
It does make you think though about like that.
Right.
What would you say?
Like the one that the thing out of those two things, obviously one of those things is the worst of the two, right? Like having sex with your married coworker is 100% the worst out of those two things. Like, because great. Like you stole a couple reams of paper from work, whatever. Like not as big of a deal as destroying a whole marriage or like any of that,
exactly.
or cheating on your spouse,
your marriage or whatever.
Yeah, if you're married, exactly. So it's like, but that's the moral dilemma is like, because nobody believes it, it's almost like you're getting away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now you're being falsely accused of stealing all this stuff. So the answer is if we're talking just about the rumor, which of these two rumors is more troubling to you? It's only the one that everybody thinks is true, right? Because it's like nobody's even talking about the other rumor because
I feel like this is almost like a trick. Like it's not a trick question. I know it's a hypothetical, but it's like from a perspective that people just think that happened and the other thing didn't happen is kind of crazy,
right?
I mean, I don't know what you're doing to lead people thinking that you're a degenerate gambler, and also like how many times you walk into the office supply closet a day if people think you're stealing stuff. Like, I mean,
need some more pink
I worked in an office. I worked in an office before COVID, and like we had a pretty healthy stash of office supplies, and like they were in the open. So if you were stealing like reams of paper and a lot of stuff, like you were right in front of like basically the assistants' desks and stuff. So it would be noticed. So I wonder what are they doing with all these office supplies that they're not selling to people? Like, I just imagine this guy, like you just walk up, he has like 1,000 pens and like a cup or something.
Jerry, can I borrow a pen? No. These are my pens.
Yeah, but he doesn't share with anybody.
These are my pens. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. Morally, obviously, having sex with your coworkers is morally the more troubling thing. But we're talking rumor mill. It's only the one that people believe. The one that people believe is more troubling because the other one's almost like a non-starter.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Interesting.
That was good.
Interesting. How have you been picking these? You're just going one to the other, or you just read
I just
through
keep going. I just start on one side. Like I just keep going one at a time.
Okay, so we haven't. It's not like you've skipped around or anything, and you're hand picking these. You're literally just picking the next one.
Yeah, just picking the next one.
How many do we have?
I don't know, dude. 50.
Enough
50.
for many episodes.
50.
Cool. All right. I guess we're going to be doing these for a while. We've done like 5 or 6 now, though. Yeah. They've all been interesting. They bring up good conversation.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, man. All right, dude.
All right, buddy.
Another fantastic episode.
Yeah, we'll have to find more content now because I'm spent. That's all my brain can handle for dumping for a while.
Don't worry.
As far as experiences. So
Daddy's got some ideas. He'll dump right on you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be back hiking soon. So I did get out to Whiteface and Passaconaway Mother's Day weekend for my springless. So that was a lot of fun.
Alzheimer's. Yeah. You got you're doing your
hopefully we'll be doing our 48 Peaks challenge. Yep. This weekend we're heading up to Maine on Friday, and hopefully Saturday or Sunday we'll be doing saddleback and saddleback horn for the Alzheimer's Longest Day 48 Peaks challenge. We kind of gave some detail. I'll link them in the show notes again. I have a team out there, the Hiking Peeps. And we're basically, in a nutshell, we're raising money for Alzheimer's. So I'll share a link again with the episode notes. We did a pretty in-depth description in the last episode of the Alzheimer's Association, the 48 Peaks, the challenge, all that stuff. So I won't refrain that. But yeah, and to them, again, if anybody from the 48 Peaks organization, Alzheimer's Association, is listening to this, we're super happy to shout you guys out and help plug where we can. So great cause, very cool event, and really looking forward to it. And hopefully I'll be up doing trail maintenance on June 8th, or at least up in New Hampshire, and hoping to get to that hiker celebration. So show some PUDs representation.
Sweet.
If things work out. Yep.
Yeah, man. You guys did a great job raising some money, too. The team did really well.
Yeah, the donations help as much, too. So.
Yeah. But all right, man. So until next time, don't forget, like, review, subscribe. Find us on social media. And bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye. PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Hat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.